There is a term for what just happened in American politics. It's a popular phrase that's been around now for 50 years. An October surprise right before the November vote. And this is an October surprise for the ages. Thanks for tuning in for your daily dose. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, shocked the world with that sudden decision to resign her post, effective in a few weeks. Reactions still pouring in from around Israel today. Prime Minister Netanyahu thanked Haley for leading the struggle against anti-Semitism and exposing the glaring anti-Israel hypocrisy at the world body. Israeli politician, Netanyahu rival Yair Lapid, tweeted Haley was an important voice who was not afraid to take on the anti-Israel bias with conviction. President Reuven Rivlin said Haley was uncompromising in her support of American policy towards Israel. And Israel's current UN ambassador, Danny Danon, thanked Haley for representing the common values of Israel and America and for being a true friend to Israel. Perhaps the most effusive praise of all came from Haley's boss, President Donald Trump.
Nikki Haley, ambassador to the United Nations, has been very special to me. She's done an incredible job. She's a fantastic person, very importantly, but she also is somebody that gets it. And, so we're all happy for you in one way, but we hate to lose. Hopefully you'll be coming back at some point, but you want to just, in maybe a different capacity. You can have your pick.
We have international coverage of this truly shocking story. Danny Aylan joins me in studio, former Israeli ambassador to the U.S. But I'm also joined by political science professor Dr. Michael Bitzer, joining me from near Charlotte, North Carolina. Professor, I wanted to start with you because there are a million questions about the story. One question certainly looms larger than the others, which is why? Why would she do this, period? Why would she do it now, just before the midterms? What is her end goal here?
I think those questions have yet to be answered. It was a shock. Certainly, we are starting October and the home stretch of the midterm campaign with this kind of surprise. It is unheard of for a cabinet-level official in a president's administration to resign basically 4 weeks before a crucial midterm election. Maybe she sees something writing on the wall in terms of what a Democratic wave may look like. Maybe she's trying to set herself up for a private business, but then come back into public life. I think a lot of questions are still unknown at this point, but it is truly a shocking revelation, considering that she also wrote the letter of resignation a week ago. It didn't leak. It made it through the Kavanaugh confirmation battle, and it was a bombshell yesterday.
Professor, will this matter for undecided voters ahead of the midterms? This image of the GOP yet again in turmoil, another high-profile cabinet departure, or a female voice leaving the administration. Will that actually matter in a few weeks?
I think the optics certainly do not portend well for the GOP. They were coming off of a high with the Kavanaugh confirmation and the success of that. They were going to trumpet that for the next couple of weeks. But certainly this does kind of deflate some things. I don't think in the end minds are going to be radically shifted in terms of how people are voting. We are such a polarized country right now. Minds are pretty much already made up on this election.
I'm going to bring into this conversation, Danny. A lot of U.S. ambassadors are pro-Israel. Nikki Haley, certainly not the first, but what made her so special? How big of a blow is this that she's leaving?
Well, it is unfortunate, although we have to remember, ambassador, as gifted and as influential as they are cabinet members, and they serve to the president, and they serve at his pleasure. But she was exceptional in her enthusiasm, in her gifted abilities. You knew she did it, really wholeheartedly. And I think this maybe could be ascribed to the fact that she is close to evangelical quarters who really believe that it is an important American interest to support Israel.
There's a few names already being speculated to replace her. One of them, perhaps the front runner, is Dina Powell, who has a lot of experience, a close ally of Trump. We'll talk about her in a second. The other name being thrown around is President Trump's daughter. Here's what the president had to say about it.
I think Ivanka would be incredible. That doesn't mean I'd pick her, because you'd be accused of nepotism. Even though I'm not sure there's anybody more competent in the world, but that's okay.
The name is being thrown around. Ivanka herself now says she's not interested in the post. That doesn't mean perhaps she wouldn't accept it. Do you think she could be Ivanka Trump, an effective?
I think now, after that, the announcement of both the president and Ivanka, I think it will be very different to recant or to rescind these statements. But my guess would be that one of the congressmen, whether a senator from the Senate or from the House, who didn't make it through the November elections, could be a good candidate. You need somebody with political skills at the UN.
Professor Bitzer, what about Dina Powell? I mean, she helped really formulate the President Trump's Middle East vision. It was a key voice in the Jerusalem embassy announcement and the embassy move and the capital announcement. Do you think it's her job to lose at this point? He said, I am considering her.
I think certainly she is in probably the top 5 in consideration. I think she's got strong ties certainly to Ivanka and to Jared, and they would be willing advocates for her. But I think really this is going to be up to President Trump, and he is starting to finally find his footing in the administration and is starting to bring in his own people. Somebody like Secretary Pompeo certainly was someone that was not seen early on, but as Secretary of State, he and the president have joined very wholeheartedly together. So I think this is really the opportunity again for the president, along with some other cabinet officials that we're expecting to resign or be asked to leave after the midterm, for him to really kind of reshape the next 2 years of his administration.
Professor, he says he'll have a name perhaps in 2 or 3 weeks this month. You said perhaps Dina Powell is definitely top 5. Give me another name or two, perhaps, that's on your radar that we may not be aware of.
I think it's still too early. I'm intrigued by the ambassador's mention that perhaps a defeated member of Congress, either a senator or more likely in the U.S. House, would be someone. Remember, Nikki Haley went to the UN as somebody who was only a South Carolina governor. She didn't have much foreign policy experience besides recruiting businesses to South Carolina internationally. So it's really opened up, and I think the key thing, as the ambassador said, is someone who's got the diplomatic skills, but who is willing to be assertive, as Nikki Haley was, and to put forward the president's agenda.
Danny, Haley's certainly a big reason why the U.S. pushed for the U.S. to leave the Human Rights Council. She supported ending the aid to UNRWA. She blocked UN resolutions that were anti-Israel during the Gaza crises. I mean, can the successor be as effective as she was? Well, I mean, it's a big shoe to fill here, whoever it is.
Well, absolutely. But one would think so. At the end of the day, it's how you employ, how you use the power of the United States. And this power of the United States and influence was not really readily, or I would say even successfully, employed by the former administration. But I would say that Nikki Haley, Pastor Haley, did much more than just defending Israel at the UN, because the UN, in my mind, is the main perpetrator in the BDS movement. And while she was defending Israel, attacking and pointing out at the UN with the cynicism and hypocrisy there, that was also a way to deflect some of the BDS movements.
All right, Danny Ayalon, Professor Michael Bitzer.